Hey photographers, how are you? Okay, welcome to my YouTube channel, Iris Care Photography, and all my previous videos may be very useful to you, and keep on making videos. For the beginners in photography, I'm giving a lot of tips and settings, and I spoke about so many topics. Always I'm telling the videos I'm making is for the beginners, and so I'm making it very simple. I'm not using a lot of technical terms, and if you want me to make it simpler than this, please write your opinion about these videos in the comment. I am trying to make it in a more simpler way. In photography, there are a very complex topic, and least bothered about so many people. That topic is dynamic range. The dynamic range is really a complex subject. Okay, most of the people don't understand about it. The beginner is in photography, they don't care about it. Whatever is available in the camera settings or default, they'll use it. First of all, I have to explain what is the dynamic range in the field of photography. Dynamic range depends on your camera sensor. That will vary. The dynamic range, if your camera has got a very poor dynamic range because of your sensor size. Sometimes when you try to take a photo with your cell phone, it won't give you a proper exposure because the cell phone's camera sensor has got a very tiny sensor. That's why it cannot capture more detail from the highlight area and also from the darker area. I'm going to show some pictures in here, and you'll understand better by seeing that pictures. What is the dynamic ranges? Your camera's ability to capture the amount of details in the higher side, that means in the brighter side and also in the darker side. So when you take a picture, the picture will have some darker areas and also some brighter areas. So how much details your camera can pick up from the highlight side and also from the darker side. This is what the dynamic range. So if you take a landscape, you may directly focusing on the nearby the sun. What will happen? That all the brighter side will be completely blown away, and you won't see any detail in the highlight side. The same way, the details in the darker side will be completely dark, shadow, because of your dynamic range setting in your camera. For example, I am using the Fuji camera. That Fuji camera is giving, you can make some adjustment to increase your dynamic range settings. Normally what will happen, it will be the default dynamic setting is auto, and you can increase to the 100%, and you can go to the 200%, then further you can go to 400%. If you set like this, your dynamic range, for example, the default dynamic range is this much, and if you increase it to 100, it will go to this much, and if you go to 200, it will go to this much, and 400, it will go to this much. So both the side, it will go. If you set the dynamic range to 400, so in post-processing, you can take more detail from both the side, highlight side and also from the darker side. This is what the dynamic range. Dynamic range, normally you can change in the Fuji camera in the menu, the IQ menu, but unfortunately I don't have the camera recorder to show you this. Anyhow, just I'm showing you for your benefit. I'm going to show my real camera settings in front of the camera. You can understand a little better. Okay, look at these pictures here. And these pictures, the highlight side is completely blown away, and the darker side you can't see any detail. At the same time, if you change your dynamic range settings in the right side, you can take more details from the highlight side and also from the darker side. In Fuji camera, you go to the menu, IQ menu, and you will go to the dynamic D or dynamic settings, and you will see there are 4 settings: auto, 100%, 200%, and the 400 will be sometimes grayed out because your ISO setting may be less. So always, if you want to use the highest dynamic range settings, you have to increase your ISO setting minimum more than 650 ISO. You can set your camera to 400%. Our human eye is the highest dynamic range. If you set your camera for a proper exposure, proper ISO and aperture and shutter speed. In the post-processing in Lightroom, you can just bring out all the details from the highlight and also from the darker side. So sometimes what will happen, if you don't stretch your camera's dynamic range in your camera, it's very hard to bring out the details from the highlights. So it's completely blown away. So that's very important. Before you take a picture, just set your dynamic range setting properly, and then you increase your ISO a little bit. Then if you take a picture in post processing, at least you can bring all the details from the darker side and also from the highlight side. In future, I'm making more videos about the different concept, and to get all my videos, please subscribe my video and like and share.